Can you speak to the audience about people that are experiencing overwhelming anxiety? What is the fantasy model there?
So I'll use a story again. So this boy, he was, I think, about almost 11 months old. And he was scampering around on the ground, and the father-mother started a big fight. And the father got really aggressive and violent. And the boy was frightened and wanted to protect the mom, but, intellectually in the brain of the child, it's like, I would protect mommy, but and scampered off into the room, got underneath the bunk bed, put pillows around it to protect itself, and then eventually shut off its ears, shut off its sight. It didn't want to see or hear mommy, and it just went into a kinesthetic mode. And so it fell asleep. Well, mom and dad calmed down, because they fight sometimes, and they calm down. The next morning, dad goes off to work. Mommy gets up, makes sure the boy gets dressed and everything else and eats and stuff, and takes him to the grocery store. So he goes to the grocery store, and he's in the basket because he's not even a year old. He's in the basket, and they're going down the aisle, and all of a sudden a guy comes down the aisle. The dad had blue jeans and a white shirt, brown hair, and a brown mustache. Father. A guy comes down the aisle with blue jeans, white shirt, brown hair, brown mustache. The moment this child spotted it, the child had two responses, either to get behind mommy and protect it, or get in front of mommy and turn back and look over its shoulder and try to protect mommy. Because the brain associated blue jeans, white shirt, brown hair, brown mustache with aggression and violence. And so the fight or flight response came in to try to protect mommy or to protect itself. So then all of a sudden the guy goes by, and the second the guy goes by and walks by, doesn't hurt mommy. He calms down. Mommy's going, why is this reacting as there? What's this about? So they go down the next aisle, and all of a sudden they see a guy with blue jeans, yellow shirt, brown hair, brown mustache. So the child now associates blue jeans, white shirt, brown hair, brown mustache, but now yellow's associated. It's not strong, but it's a secondary association associated with brown hair and blue jeans. So they go down there, and there's this little bit of anxiety, a little bit of response, not as strong as the first one. Then they go down another aisle, and they finally see a guy that's got blonde hair, no mustache, white shirt, blue jeans. And so now the baby has another association because the blue jeans and white shirt, but not the yellow hair. So it's a little bit less of an anxiety. So anxiety is a secondary, tertiary, and quaternary compounding of one event that's been assumed to be traumatic, more pain than pleasure, that you're running around storing in the hippocampus and the subconscious mind. The amygdala assigned it, and it's stored there. And so all the associations that remind you of it, any sound or sight or anything that reminds you of the original event, can trigger it. And after a while, secondary things can trigger it, and tertiary. And eventually, hundreds of things are stimulating that response. And you're wondering why you have an anxiety around it. Because it's been secondary, tertiary, and quaternary stimuli are stimulating a response. It's a fight or flight response from an original event. If I go back to that original event, and neutralize that original event, the whole cascade disappears. We had a lady in London. She was 16 years old. She was standing on a street corner, and she had 4 other friends, I believe, or 5 other friends gathered around, and they were smoking pot. And they were just getting stoned, standing on the corner and everything else, like teenagers sometimes do. And all of a sudden, a car comes up to the corner. And where they were, the sidewalk there was a little knoll down to the street. It was like a little bit of an angle. And this person pulls up, rolls down the window, and says, excuse me, we're kind of lost. Can you tell us instruct us where to go to get this thing? There were 4 guys in that car, teenagers, probably 18, 19, 20, something like that. So the girl knew where the street was and walked down, didn't think anything of it, walks down towards the car, gets down close to the car, and says it's about 2 blocks this way and about 2 blocks that way. You're close, you're not too far. And he does. The guy gets out to say, well, can I thank you? And opens the door, grabs her, and starts to grab her in the car. And the moment she does, she gets get in the car, they start to drive off. But they're trying to pull her in the car. The people that run after her and grab her, and this big guy reached down and literally grabbed her legs and held her, and they were dragging them along like that. And finally, they let her go and drove off. And she got scraped up and bruised and kind of hurt. But this guy grabbed her. So she was in shock. I went to the hospital, and they had to get some stitches and scrapes and stuff done. And she was in shock. And because she was stoned, she made this association, and she started an anxiety disorder. And the specialists that she went to said, well, you have an anxiety disorder, you take this med, right? Classical med thing.
Sure.
So the mother brings her to me, and I said, go to the moment, at that exact moment where you felt the change occurred, where you felt safe, and all of a sudden you going, oh my God, this guy's trying to hurt me. And at that exact moment, get present in that moment. Because the mind automatically, for every memory, it has an anti-memory. It will dissociate from anything that's painful and create an artificial counterbalancing reality in the mind as a dissociation. So at that moment when he's pulling you down, who in your mind is pulling you up? He says, the guy that I had a hots for, that I was hoping would be interested in me. He's the one that lunged forward and grabbed me and came to the hospital with me and spent the evening with me and came home to my parents and stayed in the house to make sure I was okay. I said, so what you're saying is at the moment somebody's pulling you down, he was trying to hold you up, pull you up? Yep. And the moment this person is trying to harm you, he's trying to keep you safe? Yep. And the moment you're sitting there being dragged, he's trying to lift you off the ground and then he carried you? Yep. Are these pairs of opposites? Yeah. And did you have a desire to want to be with this guy? Yeah. Did these guys help you get the guy that you wanted, and you were a little anxious about talking to him, and you were quiet and weren't speaking up, and these guys made it where you end up having him stay with you, and yeah, he's your boyfriend? Yup. Do you really think you would have score him that night? Nope. So did these guys help you get your boyfriend? And she goes, I never thought of that. So at that exact moment that you thought you had trauma and tragedy, you also had ecstasy. And she goes, yeah. I said, the moment you see the pairs of opposites simultaneously and synchronous in the brain, as Wilhelm Wundt, father of experimental psychology, demonstrated, you liberate yourself from the emotional bondage of these things that you infatuate or resent, and they synchronize and synthesize, and the gamma burst occurs in the brain, the gamma synchronicity occurs, and all of a sudden she's in tears, and she all of a sudden wasn't angry at the people, and she was now grateful for what happened, because now she's got the guy in her life that she do, and that was a confirmation that he's the guy. And since that time, he's there. So anyway, once we finished that, the anxiety was gone. And there was no medication, and I was speaking, that was a Friday afternoon, evening, and the following Tuesday I was doing a program at the Bloomsbury Hotel in London, and there was a mother and her, and they're in the front row, and I was getting up on stage, and I looked down, and I saw them, and I came down the steps, and I gave them both a hug, and the mother says, hadn't had anxiety since you chatted with her. It just cleared it because you transformed the misperception that she had. She saw a one-sided world, tragedy without comedy, negative without positive. And you helped her ask questions, make her conscious of both sides simultaneously, liberated it, and now she's there. And I said, where's the boyfriend? It says, well, he's working tonight. I said, well, next time I come to London, I want to meet you and the boyfriend. He says, no problem. But she's sitting there, the anxiety's gone. The medication wasn't needed. Medication is a symptom, to palliative thing, instead of actually going in there and dissolving the very illusion that we get trapped in sometimes. And I'm not denying that the guy tried to steal her and tried to hurt her, tries to possibly rape her. But the truth is, in that exact moment, there was a pair of opposites, and the mind will automatically make a pair of opposites to create a homeostatic system. It's an interoceptive homeostatic system in the brain to maintain homeostasis in the brain. But we ignore it in psychology. I'm a guy who does, neurology. I finished a textbook last year on neurology, and I've watched those subtle changes in there. And if we go ask the right questions, we can wake them up and liberate ourselves from these misperceptions that we store in our subconscious mind, run these stories for decades on, and just dissolve them. There's nothing your mortal body can experience, your mortal soul can't love. The mortal soul is the state of unconditional love when you see the hidden order and the various things that are going on in life. And then you see life on the way, not in the way. You don't have the baggage that weighs you down and ages you. You have the thing that lightens you up and inspires you.